Buenas tardes, afternoon, and good evening, and good morning somewhere out there in the world. This is Nuestra Comunidad Noroeste Indiana, our community, Northwest Indiana, AM 1370, the Region's Choice and the People's Voice, and of course, 92.7 FM. And we are happy to be here. Happy Friday, feliz viernes a todos ustedes que están escuchando en vivo desde YouTube, desde 1370wlth.com y también desde Facebook. Así es que saludos a todos ustedes. Thank you for joining us on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nuestra. That's Nuestra, Comunidad, Comunidadnwi. You can always hit replay to repeat it if you didn't catch it, right? Before I start with great announcements and things that are happening in the community, the views expressed by the host and the callers of this show are not necessarily the views of WLTH radio management, owners and sponsors, and advertisers. And for those of us that are out there complaining about the heat, don't complain. Right. We have been wanting it, and now here it is. When I was driving this way, it said it was 94 degrees, and I think that's the heat index with the humidity level. So forget having some good-looking hair, okay, ladies? Or men with long hair. It gets frizzy. So, ladies, don't try to look cute and you're all sweaty and your hair's frizzy. For some of you, you know what I'm talking about. It doesn't even help. It doesn't even help. Well, of course, my co-host will be calling in to give a few announcements. And for those that are listening, I have a special guest here, and I'm sure that you can see her on screen. Hello, Ms. Kim Collins. She, too, is a lady that does wonders, and you'll get to hear about her in a few minutes. We want to also thank Araceli Corona for being the advertiser. And of course, we're open to anybody and everyone to contribute, to help and support the only, you heard me right, the only, la única estación que tiene programa bilingüe de nuestra categoría, de nuestro tipo, de nuestro estilo. We're the only ones, the one of a kind, the only kind of its kind here in Nuestra Comunidad, which is WLTH AM 1370 and 92.7 FM. So we thank you for joining us. Again, as I mentioned, Juanito will be calling. If you're interested in calling in, is he calling? Is Juan on the line? All right, let's see. Put him on. Juanito, where you at?
My car.
En tu carro, pero ¿dónde?
In heaven.
Oh, you're in my territory. What you doing in my territory?
It goes by Chicago, right?
Oh, you're passing through. Ah, gotcha. You're passing through. So what do you have over there, Juanito?
Well, I do want to say, too, like I said, you already mentioned with Araceli Corona. And, of course, she's providing these free informational seminars throughout Northwest Indiana and beyond. And she has some new ones coming up on July the 17th at the Hilton Garden Inn at 7775 Mississippi Street in Melville, Indiana, and that's going to be taking place at 6 o'clock. Also on July the 11th at 2:30 p.m., it will be at the Holiday Inn Express in Cherville, 1773 Fountain Park Drive in Cherville, and July the 10th, 10 o'clock a.m. in the morning, Holiday Inn Express, 6295 Melton Road in Portage, Indiana. What you need to do is give Araceli a call if you are 65 or new to Medicare. There's a lot of options that are available in terms of choosing the best, choosing what you think is best for your own self once you are that age in terms of Medicare options. So attend one of these free information forums, and you might also want to give Araceli a call at 773-968-6619. Once again, that's 773-968-6619. And of course, we thank Ms. Araceli Corona very much for advertising on Nuestra Comunidad Northwest Indiana. Coming up on July the 18th, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Purdue University Northwest at the Hammond, Indiana campus. I graduated from Purdue Northwest, actually Purdue Calumet ages ago in Hammond, Indiana. It's completely transformed. It's completely changed. But on this day of Thursday, July the 18th from 9 to 4, will feature Dr. and co-author of the original ACEs study, and Laura Porter. She is, I guess, the co-author of the original ACEs study, and Laura Porter. I'm sorry, let me get this straight. Dr. And as the co-author of the original ACEs study, and it will also feature Ms. Laura Porter, who is a former director of the Washington State Family Police Council and Office of ACE Partnership. Learn how to impact the health of future generations by learning about the impact of trauma, community challenges, capacity building, and much, much more. Space is limited. You need to register, and this is being put on by Franciscan Health. So for more information and to register, contact Ms. Kate Hill Johnson. That's Catherine, KATHARINE .Hill, HILL-JOHNSON at Franciscan, FRANCISCAN, Alliance, ALLIANCE.org to register. I've been registered since I've seen this announcement at the very beginning. It's going to be a very powerful event. It's understanding childhood trauma, because the whole thing about this is to realize that the long-lasting effects that childhood trauma has on these young people as they grow, and how maybe there are ways that can deal with these young people that have to go through trauma that unfortunately might take place within their own homes or wherever the case may be.
Right.
And then finally, Home Ownership Month is June 2019, and we are pretty much at the end of June of 2019. So follow the Yellow Brick Road to home ownership. Affordable Home Ownership Community Research Fair is actually taking place right here and right now from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock at the Hammond Sportsplex at 6630 Indianapolis Boulevard in Hammond, Indiana. So please do come out. It is a family event. You're going to have raffle. You can bring your kids. There's things that they have for the children that are here, so that the parents can go around and attend and speak to the many vendors that are
Juanito.
there at the complex itself.
Juanito.
And so once again, come out to the Sportsplex in Hammond, 6630 Indianapolis Boulevard in Hammond, Indiana. And on that note, I thank you very much.
Juanito.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Can you say that in Spanish, please? Invite our Spanish-speaking listeners and viewers.
The event.
The event where you're at right now.
Well, actually, I've never been inside the complex.
Can you just like what you just said in English? Can you just say, Juanito, just say what you just said in English, say it in Spanish, man. Come on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Give me a chance, woman. Okay, go ahead. So, señoras y señores, this is Juan M. Andrade, and M is for magnificent, okay?
Menso, you mean M de menso. I'm sure you will.
Hoy es viernes 28. Ya menos estamos al fin del mes de junio. A las 3, comenzando a las 3 de este día, y ya estamos como 10 minutos pasados las 5, hasta las 7 de la tarde, aquí en este día de viernes, junio 28, en el Sportsplex, en el nuevo Sportsplex, en la ciudad de Hammond, Indiana, el domicilio 66, frente a calle de la Indianapolis Boulevard en Hammond, Indiana. Hasta las 7 de la tarde, en este Sportsplex en Hammond, hay un fair para la gente y familias que quieren comprar una casa y nunca han comprado una casa. So esto es donde van a tener vendors en el edificio. Actually, I think Mr. Nicholas, and I forgot his last name, said he was supposed to be outside. So maybe I got to walk around, and I think he did say it was going to be outside and not inside the complex. Pero este resource for señoras y señores es para tener y la información que se necesita para comprar una casa. Y hay muchas casas, hay un shortage de casas ahorita.
Corto de casas, sí.
That's what he said. Sorry?
Sí, tenemos corto número de casas, pero tenemos más compradores.
Right, yes. But there's a lot of people that are looking to buy houses. So hay mucha gente en Northwestern Indiana que está interesada en comprar casa, pero se necesita tener la información y aplicar para que sepan si son buenos candidatos para ganar un loan,
préstamo,
para poder comprar su casa y saber cuánto
califican, cuánto califican para comprar.
Yes.
Sí, así es que vayan allá, visiten a Juan allá en el Sports Complex, la 166 67 y Indianapolis Boulevard. Es un nuevo lugar en Hammond, Indiana, y hoy tienen los talleres. Vayan a la feria de comprar casas, ahí hay bienes y raíces, agentes de bienes y raíces, gente de aseguranza, si quieren o desean saber si califican para una hipoteca para comprar su casa, su primer sueño, vayan ahora, están ahí hasta las 7, ¿verdad, Juan?
Hasta las 7, yes.
Ok, ¿y el domicilio otra vez? What's the address real quick?
Okay. El domicilio?
Sí.
6630 calle de la Indianapolis Boulevard en Hammond, Indiana.
Muy bien, ahí te veo entonces. I'll see you after the show, Juan.
Okay.
Anything else? Is that it?
That's it.
That's it? You're not calling back?
Nope. I'll be going. I guess they said it's outside, so I gotta walk around.
Well, walk around and then let me know, but don't tell me until I'm off the air, okay?
Okay.
All right. That was my co-host, partner in crime, Juan M. Andrade. He's just hanging up from the line. And of course, he is at the Sportplex in Hammond, Indiana. So go on out there. It's a free event. Get qualified, get pre-approved to purchase a home, or you may want to refinance, or you may want to buy a second home, right? Must be nice. One of these days, I'll get to buy one house and then a second home. That would be great. It's called Invest. And I think Gary, Indiana is the place to do that. If you go and Google it, you'll find that you can find a lot of properties for very little to almost nothing in Gary, Indiana. You want to build for others to have a home. I typically would like to see a lot of duplex townhomes, not just apartments, having people pile up on top of each other, but help them start owning their own by signing them under land contracts, give them a whole year to prove themselves that they can pay monthly and then take ownership as a refinance and not an actual purchase.
And it's a great feeling being a homeowner.
Right?
Yes, bought my first house in November of 2016.
Woohoo! So you're still newlywed.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well,
never thought I would look forward to going to Menards and Lowe's and
say, this
Home
is
Depot.
my own. This is mine.
Yes, that's a great feeling.
Even though the bank doesn't own it, just so you know, it's just the money. They don't want your house, even though when you don't pay, they have to take it back. But they don't want your house.
Right.
So just saying. Well, that's awesome, Kimberly. Yeah. So, okay.
And it's cheaper than renting.
It sure is.
Oh, definitely.
I paid the house I rented maybe 3-4 times.
Yes.
I lived in a house 11 years.
Wow.
Close to $1,000 a month.
Wow.
Oof, that hurt. Okay. Anyway, that's all right. You know what? It was still a blessing. So for my YouTubers and my Facebookers, hello, buenas tardes, ¿cómo están? Aquí tengo una invitada especial, Kimberly Collins. Ella es representante de la organización PAP. Y claro, fue empezado y fundado por el doctor Michael McGee, que es el gerente o el que está en cargo de la sala de emergencia del Hospital Metodistas North Lake y South Lake. We have a wonderful representative here representing POP and representing well, if I may say so. Yeah, you'll get to hear what POP means, what it's all about. Ms. Kimberly Collins is here. Oh my, people just want to call at the wrong time. But anyway, it happens. And, those that have not watched any of my shows or any of our shows, and when I say my shows, because I had my own show for about 6 years, and now we're going on 9 years with Nuestra Comunidad, is that I'm going to speak for myself, not for Juan. I'm all about solutions. I'm all about bringing things that many people complain and talk about. I won't complain and talk about unless I have a solution.
Right.
Unless there's a meeting of action. You guys heard that? Meeting of action. I don't like just sitting in meetings just to say I'm in a meeting. It's got to be of action that when I walk out, I have something that I'm going to do. Other than, well, we meet again and what happened? Pues nada, nothing. Nothing yet, right?
Absolutely.
So Kimberly Collins, tell us, who is Kimberly Collins? Welcome again to, this is the first time to Nuestra Comunidad Nwi. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Bienvenida.
Thank you.
Tell us, who's Kimberly?
Kimberly Collins is a Gary native, proud to say, born and raised here in the city of Gary.
Yes.
I attended Emerson School of Visual and Performing Arts. Hey, Emerson. I was a piano major there. I left Emerson to go to Roosevelt, dear old Roosevelt. That was something that I always wanted to do.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask, how did that feel? But okay.
You know what? Both of my parents graduated from Roosevelt, but I wanted to be on Roosevelt's drill team.
Oh,
That was my draw. As a kid, I would go to the drill team competitions and absolutely loved it. So my mom was gracious enough to allow me to transfer to Roosevelt, where I graduated, proud graduate of the class of 96.
All right, all right.
When
She's still a baby.
When I graduated from Roosevelt, I attended the University of Tampa.
Okay.
Their ROTC program actually recruited me.
Oh,
It was actually
wow.
my plan to go into the military.
Uh-oh.
Again, being in ROTC, I wanted to go into the military, make it a career, and leave from there and actually start a second career. My mother was totally against that. So the compromise was for me to do ROTC.
Okay.
Because she was so worried that I wouldn't finish my education, that I would just be so focused on just the military. My dad supported it. My dad was a Navy veteran.
All right.
So,
thank you for serving.
Yes.
Yes.
So I went to University of Tampa. Unfortunately, after my first year there, my father was killed. Unfortunately, he was a homicide victim here in the city of Gary.
Wow.
After my first year.
Sorry to hear
Actually,
that.
thank you. I buried my dad the day after Father's Day in
Jesus.
97.
Wow.
Very, very trying event. However, I continued in school. I graduated. I got my bachelor's degree in criminal justice.
All right.
I
You
have
go, girl.
thank you. I have a certificate in public management, and my master's is in public affairs with concentrations in criminal justice and public management from Indiana University.
Don't mess with this woman here.
So my
yes, AJ Owens Roosevelt.
right. After graduating from IU, I was hired in criminal probation. I worked for the Superior Court of Lake County's Criminal Probation Department for 13 years.
Wow.
I worked in the felony court. I worked for all 4 criminal court judges during that time. In addition to having a caseload, actually supervising people that were on probation, I also completed pre-sentence investigation reports, which are the reports that the judges use to determine sentencing for defendants who've either pled guilty or have been convicted.
Wow. And when's the last time you worked for the county?
I left the county in 2013.
Okay.
And that was for a career change. Of course, law enforcement has always been my thing. Always wanted to be on the federal level. So I became a federal agent in July of 2013. Won't be specific about my agency because of the nature of the job,
Yes,
but
yes.
I do work violent crimes, and I've been doing that since 2013.
Wow. I was just in 2 of those felony courts this morning.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 and 3. Boswell and
Judge Murray's in
Yep,
room 2.
Murray. Yep, that's where I was today this morning.
Okay.
Wasn't fun.
I could write a book, the experiences that I had, great experiences,
And you should.
but it was also trying over those 13 years. And I learned a very, very valuable lesson. Oftentimes, you know, we have the media, we have the news, obviously the news outlets, we have newspaper, but you only get a small portion.
Oh boy, do I know that.
What really happens.
When you're in there, you see a lot more.
And there's so much that you see that is just devastating. You know, I had to deal with all different types of offenders, all different types of offenses. But when it came to children and elderly people, those were the most difficult. Those were the most difficult. And oftentimes you sit back and you say, okay, how can a person do this? Or
did I just hear
thinking?
that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I've sat there, Kimberly. I know exactly what you're saying. Although they say when I am hired to interpret, I'm an officer of the court. But I look around and it's like, did you guys just see that, hear that? Are you going to do anything about it?
Yes. Yes. And as a mother, I have to mention, I have
doesn't
a
that
daughter.
just like, you just hit my heart.
Yes. 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 And I always tell parents, you have to be very, very careful with who you trust your children around, what you expose them to, the things that you do, because they're always watching.
Oh, yeah.
And oftentimes, unfortunately, a lot of the cases that I saw, the victims were not victimized by strangers.
About people that they know,
yes.
because those are first ones that they trust and confide in, and they know the ins and outs of you, your vulnerability, your weaknesses.
Absolutely. And
That's
people
sick.
take advantage of
That's
that,
sick.
unfortunately.
But true.
Yes. Yes.
Sick, but true.
Absolutely.
Whew.
And my daughter didn't understand. And it's so funny because I often thought back to, you know, my parents. I always felt my mom was very strict. My mom, I couldn't go to sleep.
Thank you, Mom. Right. You got to thank her, right? After the fact.
Absolutely. But
Thank
now
you.
I understand and I
There
appreciate,
you go.
the decisions that she made and the fact that I couldn't go a lot of places that other people could go. But I see now that it was just to protect me.
That's
And
it.
I was the
That's
same
it.
way with my daughter. My daughter will be
Look at that.
21 next month. However, I'm still,
Look,
very protective of her.
there was Judge Miller. I haven't been in his court in a while in juvie.
Oh, in juvenile.
He
Okay.
would tell the parent,
Mhm.
18 is no magic number.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to say 21 is no magic number. So
Mhm.
don't be mistaken just because the government has told you that at age 18 is adulthood, that doesn't mean that their mind is of that.
You're absolutely right. Dr. Clarence Boone.
Oh, yes. I
Dr.
saw his name and I'm like, where is he? I didn't
Yes,
see
Dr.
him.
Boone retired, but it's
He
so
did?
ironic. Dr. Boone delivered me.
Wow.
My mom worked with Dr. Boone. He delivered my daughter. But I remember so many conversations that I had with Dr. Boone, and I will never, ever forget him. I appreciate him so much. And I remember when I was in high school and Dr. Boone, I'm thinking, I'm getting older and I'll be grown soon. I remember making that statement. And he told me age does not make you grown.
No, it does not. 50-year-olds aren't even grown.
Absolutely. And you know what? And
They're just older. That's it.
And I tell my daughter the same thing. Age does not make you grown. Again, she's almost 21.
Wait.
But
I've seen some 30-year-olds that say, I'm all grown. I can do what I want. Okay, then let's see.
Yes.
See you're at your grown self. What you get into.
I told my daughter, grown people take care of themselves. So anytime that she wants to be grown, I will allow her to be. I will step back. I will no longer put money in her account. She cannot stay in my house. I'm not paying a car note. None of that, because grown people take care of themselves.
Well, you know what? Even if they are grown and they take care of themselves, they really can't take care of themselves. Maybe financially, but emotionally,
that's another issue.
That's
another issue. Another
you guys
issue.
know what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely.
So, Kimberly Collins is here, and what she said and what she shared with us right now takes you to what she's doing with this non-for-profit and why she's doing it. And you're going to hear it from her because I don't like speaking for anybody. And I'm just blessed to now finally be part of POP because that's where my passion has been for decades. I have my 2 kids. So and talk about being really hardcore, strict parent. My dad.
Okay.
He's an honorary man, but he didn't want me to have a boyfriend at any time. I am grown and divorced and still didn't want someone for me.
Wow.
Okay. So, and imagine I had 5 brothers. I grew up with 5 brothers. So I get it.
Okay.
And I said, I'm not going to do that to my kids. Granted, yes. Do I watch what they did? Who they hung out with? Yes. I need to know their parents or you can't go with them.
Absolutely.
I don't know who they are. Where'd you meet them? What do they do? What do they like? You know what? Let me meet them first. Let me read them from top to bottom. You have to. And you just mentioned why we have to do that, which brings on what brings you here today.
Yes, I am happy to be here to represent POP, which is Project Outreach and Prevention. I was attending a political function a couple years ago, and Dr. Mike McGee, who's the founder of POP, was there, and I heard people talking about POP. And when I found out what it was about, again, as I mentioned before, my father was killed in the city of Gary. And prior to my father being killed, I had a cousin, his name was Kelly Galloway, who was killed in 1995. He was attending a party at B&J Banquet Hall, and unfortunately he was shot, and he was also killed with another young man that particular night. So unfortunately my family has experienced violence firsthand, and I often tell people it's a totally different feeling to lose someone violently. It's one thing for a person to get sick and to pass away, but the fact that they died at the hands of someone else who had no right whatsoever to make that decision. And people don't think about the fact that you're not just affecting the person's life that you're taking. There's so many other people. And for me, with my dad, my dad was not only a father, he was a brother, he was a son, he was a cousin. There were so many people that were affected. And I realized my grandparents never recovered from that. Shortly after, my father passed away, his parents' health declined and they passed away as well. And they grieved for him until the day they left here. And I look at my aunt, my cousin Kelly's mother, and here it is. He died, of course, in 1995. And as a mother, and I can't imagine, I know how it feels as a child, but of course, being a mother myself, I cannot imagine that heartache. And it's been over 20 years for my dad, but I still have my moments. I still cry. The anniversary of his passing was just June 11th.
Wow,
And
mine's June 9th.
Wow. And when I tell
Oh,
you,
my
sometimes
goodness.
I can't stop crying. I often think about him. I often think about, all that he's missed out on. My daughter was born a year after he died. He never had the experience of a grandchild. And I didn't realize how young my father was when he died. My dad was 44 years old when he
That is young. That is young.
Yes.
That's taking somebody away from their life.
It is. And so when I found out about Pop, and it was something that I just had to become a part of, the outreach with the youth, which I think is so very important. Kids are exposed to so much more now than we were. Of course, we didn't have social media, when I graduated from high school in 96. And we didn't have the bullying to the extent of, we didn't have the violence to the extent. Of course it happened, but it wasn't so profound, as it is right now. And the kids, I remember in April, Anti-Violence Week, Pop visited a number of schools in Gary. We went to Maryville High School. We were in Hammond, and we were also in Chicago. And what really, really hit me hard was the reality when you ask the kids how many have been affected by violence. The fact that almost every child in there.
That was deep. I was watching some of those videos.
I couldn't, I literally had tears just falling.
Well, I was just there last weekend with you guys, and he asked that question, and I saw 90% of those kids stood up.
Yes. Yes.
Are you guys listening to this?
Yes.
This is real stuff. This is no game, no video game that some kids take it to reality. Let me gain some points. So I can please somebody and get involved into something. This is real, people. And that's why, we were going to switch dates. I'm like, no, let's bring you on. And it worked out because the other guest is not able to come here. But this is important that you all need to hear. You often take life for granted, people. Don't tell me no, because I know you do. We take life for granted. And here you have Ms. Collins saying 2 of her loved ones' life were taken away. It was not a choice. That choice was taken from them to continue to live on. But how many kids have to keep raising their hands every time Dr. McGee asks this question? This is real, more than surreal. This is real.
And for Dr. McGee, in 2008 is when Pop was founded. But Dr. McGee is the chief of the emergency room department for Methodist Hospital.
Firsthand.
Absolutely. And Dr. Rutland, also a founder of Pop, is the chief of trauma.
So they both see it firsthand.
Right. Jesus. They're seeing, young people, of course, coming in that have been affected by violence. And that's how Pop got started. And what's really, really sad is the fact that it just seems that people are becoming immune to this. Like it's just the norm. And I have to stress,
sad.
I get so tired of people talking about Gary, talking about East Chicago, Hammond, talking about Chicago.
I do too.
It's not just happening here.
No, it happens in the richest places.
It happens all over. And that's another thing that I discovered when I started working for Lake County, when I started seeing cases. And before working there, you would think all the crime happened in Gary, East Chicago, and Hammond. However, when I started working out there and started seeing the cases from Crown Point, from Munster, from Dyer, the difference is you don't hear about it. It's not being publicized. It's not being talked about.
That's right.
And what's really
they pick and choose.
Right. And negative just seems to be what people
they draw to it. They're so drawn to it. But let me pause you for a second. I think we got some commercials to play for Araceli Corona, and we'll be back after these commercials. Don't go anywhere, guys. This is important information. So whenever you're ready, young lady, you let us know. This is AM 1370, the Region's Choice and the People's Voice, Nuestra Comunidad Nwi, Indiana.
And do you have questions regarding your Medicare coverage? Do you need to explore your options and choose a plan that covers your medical needs? Call me. I am Araceli Corona, a licensed
We sometimes
insurance
have people
agent
that call
serving
in.
Illinois and
Sometimes they'll
Indiana.
comment on social media. Sometimes they'll go back and watch it and then comment.
And
So
219-801-1276.
I'm going to ask you contact information and
Call
all
me,
that.
and I am glad to answer your questions, help you explore your
Sometimes
options.
people will tell me, you know, I was listening the other day.
If you are turning
Who's
65,
calling? I don't know.
have Medicare,
But
you may
they're
qualify
driving
to
to
select a
listening.
plan.
Okay.
I am a licensed and certified agent here to help. 773-968-6619 and 219-801-1276. I look forward to your call. Araceli Corona is not connected with the federal Medicare program.
All right, we are back. We're back. Nuestra Comunidad Nwi, Indiana. And we have a young lady that's a board operator here today. What's your name, young lady?
My name is Winter.
Winter. I can't forget your name. Now you are the second Winter I have met, and you're both the bomb. Thank you so much for manning the board. Thank you, Nat, for bringing her on board. You know, we got to teach the new how to do it so we can step back and watch. Right? Well, we have a wonderful young lady here talking the truth. You know, I'm all about real talk, keeping it real. Don't sugarcoat it, because we are not helping our kids by sugarcoating things.
Absolutely.
We're not helping anybody. New president, council of Milwaukee. Oh, okay. Shout out to Angel. You are the new president, council of Milwaukee, and I'm the new president, council here in Northwest Indiana as well. We'll talk about that later, but let's talk. Thank you. So Project Outreach and Prevention is doing things.
Absolutely.
Do you have a YouTube channel under it, or contact as in social media so we can reach out to you and know what you're doing?
Definitely. You can go to www.nwipop.org. Pop on Youth Violence is also on Facebook. We're on Instagram, every social media platform that you can think of. You can find Pop.
And Pop stands for
Project Outreach and Prevention.
And I have to remember that. I am guilty. I'm like, Pop, what does it stand for? I know something prevention. For some reason, it won't stick in my brain. But then again, but you know what? I went and did some research on interpreters. Our mind, our memory works different than the majority of people because our memory is short span. When we're interpreting, it hits out the water, out your mouth, in your mind, out your mouth, in your mind. You capture 2 or 3 sentences, a whole paragraph, then it comes out of your mouth. So you've forgotten it in and out, and I understand myself better. I thought I was going bad and saying I can't remember.
You understand yourself.
Yes, I do. So violence is huge in Chicago. It's huge in Indiana. But as you mentioned, it's not just here.
Absolutely.
But that's just the way social media and media wants you to think. No one is immune to it. I mean, it happens everywhere. And I'm in South Shore, Kim, and I hear gunshots. A friend of mine reached out to me the day of some shooting. It happened at 1 a.m. I said, I was so sound asleep, I didn't hear it. He said, it happened a block away on your street. I'm like, I didn't hear anything. I'm glad that I didn't. But I know that violence is happening everywhere.
And what's so unfortunate is the fact that it's so common where it's not even alarming to people anymore. In some neighborhoods, hearing gunshots just as common as hearing birds chirp. You hear gunshots
it's sad.
Oh, they're shooting again. And that's what's really, really sad. And what needs to happen, people really need to get to a point where they are completely fed up. But what I found is that oftentimes people don't worry about things unless it's
not happening to them. And that's an issue I have.
That's what's sad. And
issue I have.
This no snitch rule. Oh my gosh. I can
tell
talk
on
all
them.
Day about that because I
tell
can't
on them.
stand
tell on them.
People say, well, I'm no snitch or I'm not telling.
You can save a life. Snitch.
Absolutely. I was a criminal justice professor for about 5 or 6 years, and I taught criminal justice students. And I remembered in one of my classes, and we would have debates all the time. And one of the students was talking about not snitching. They wouldn't tell. I said, so if you saw something happen, if you saw someone get shot or you saw someone get robbed, and let's say you know who it is or you can describe them. He said, no, that's none of my business.
That's the problem right there. That now, remember back in the day, our neighbors were watching us?
Absolutely.
And they're like, young lady, it's getting dark. Where are you doing? You know, if mom and dad, they knew mom and dad weren't home, they were our parents.
Right.
And yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Now it's like, it's none of my
It's
business.
none of my business.
But we got quote unquote grown folks saying that.
Absolutely.
They become spectators. They're so quick to grab that little phone and they become the paparazzis, the news reporters reporting something and just standing there instead of calling 911 and saving somebody's job.
Yes.
As in a mother saving their job, continue being a mother,
Mhm.
and a father continue being a father. Instead, you're allowing somebody's life to be taken because you're just gonna watch them
Mhm.
murder them,
With this
beat the
student,
mess out of them. Jesus.
his attitude didn't change until I gave him a scenario, a violent scenario,
Right.
and the victim was his mother.
Mm.
So I said to him, so if your mother's walking down the alley and she gets attacked by somebody, they beat her, they rape her,
Oh,
they
what you
kill
do?
her.
Mm.
You're okay with someone
Just
seeing
watching.
it and not
Mm,
saying anything.
mm.
You know what he
Oh, the
said?
story
Oh,
changed.
well, that's
The
my
story
mother.
changed. Well, that's somebody's mother.
That's
Hello.
somebody's sister. That's
That's
somebody's
somebody's
family member.
right.
So, you know, and I have to say this, and I didn't ask before if there was a problem with me being transparent. I am
No.
one of those.
I am a
sugarcoat anything.
transparent. So we are in the same hood.
Thank you.
Transparency neighborhood.
Well, I will
We're gonna tell
you,
it like it is. Don't sugarcoat it,
one
please.
thing that really, really bothers me. You often hear about Black Lives Matter.
Oh, look.
Let me
I know where
say
you're
this.
going with this because I'm gonna
I
agree.
do not disagree. However, I believe that all lives matter.
Yes.
Why is it that Black lives seem to only matter when it comes to violence and the
Period.
police?
Exactly.
You know, when people, I can't tell you the number of times that I've gone out to do a search warrant, you know, maybe going to arrest someone. People are outside with their phones, they're videotaping
Yep.
everything that we're doing
Yep.
as law enforcement.
Yep.
However, if there's a shooting around the block, because a lot of these homicides are not happening at night. They're
Broad
people are
daylight.
bold now. It's
Broad
broad open
daylight.
daylight.
They don't care.
There's traffic, there's people
Senseless.
around, and people see, but they don't want to say anything. Then people say, well, I'm afraid. You know, I don't want retaliation. I don't want this person to come back. Well, then I tell them there are hotlines that you can call.
Unanimously.
You can report the information
That's
anonymously.
right. Yeah.
All you have to do is think, okay, what if this were my child?
Right.
What if this were my brother? What if this were my sister? You go on from there and don't make the difference. I will tell you, more Black people are killed by Black
people and Latino on Latino, Black on Black, brown on Black. And that's, oh, don't get me started. That's going to be another show, Kim.
Yes.
We're supposed to talk about pop, but you know what? That's how pop exists. Because of that senseless shooting, because of the idiotic mentality of our own people, our own Black, our own brown.
Yes.
But yet we want to hurry up and go want to kill an officer because he killed somebody. How much have you shown and taught values on your own child?
Absolutely.
Black lives don't matter, their own lives. Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
I asked that question. When will Black lives matter to Black
people? Same thing with my brown, my Latinos. It's not that the cops are waiting there to kill somebody. Blacks are waiting to kill Blacks.
Absolutely.
Latinos are waiting to kill Latinos. You know, and in New York, what's that rapper that died, and all of a sudden you got all these
Nipsey Hussle.
Yes.
That was in California.
And I loved it that I saw in California that gang members got together and they said, enough. This is senseless killing. Well, it's them that's doing it, but I'm glad that it happened, and I can't wait for it to happen in Chicago and Illinois. I reached out to the reporter that did that, and I guess I got to follow up because they didn't reach back to me. But that's what needs to happen. We need to come together with the gangs and show them love too, because obviously they're doing that because something's missing.
Absolutely.
And you've seen it.
And oftentimes, when I was a probation officer, again, working with adults in felony, people would always ask me if I ever worked in juvenile. And I was very honest. I don't have the patience, you know, because the one thing that I learned oftentimes when you interview individuals that are going through the court system, for juveniles, oftentimes when you meet the parents,
you realize
you know
why they did what Pookie did.
Absolutely.
And
why
on that
you have
note,
the
we got a
problems.
commercial coming up, Miss Winter. The other language one. Actually, we're supposed to play it for, but when you get a chance, we'll be right back after this. So don't go anywhere, guys, here on Nuestra Comunidad Nwi.
Atención, recibidores de Medicare.
Angel Lopez is actually with the. Hold on, Angel. You can call 219-885-1371.
que mejor cubra sus necesidades
In Illinois,
médicas,
there's a Parents for Peace and
llámenme.
Justice
Soy
group.
Araceli
Majority
Corona,
are
un
Hispanic.
agente de
These are
seguros
women that
sirviendo
their kids have
Illinois,
been
Indiana.
shot to
Háblenme
death,
al
senseless,
773
whether they
968
provoked it or didn't
6619
provoke it.
o
These crimes have
219
not been solved. They haven't found the one that did it,
1276.
and that's why they
Puedo
are crying
ayudarle
for
a
peace and
contestar sus
justice.
preguntas y explorar sus opciones en
He,
Medicare.
he,
Si tiene
I'm going to have
Medicare
to
y
connect you
quiere
with them.
cambiar su plan médico hoy,
Says,
usted puede
she needs to
calificar.
hook up with
Soy
Robert
una
Torres
agente
to
licenciada y
prepare for
certificada y
peace and
espero su
justice.
llamada. Araceli
He's also
Corona no está
involved with,
conectada con el
he's a
programa
former
federal
coach
de
or still coaching with the football,
Okay.
NFL.
Sounds good.
Angel.
We're trying to network with as many people.
We're not
as
trying, we're
possible.
doing it.
Yes.
We're not trying, we're doing it.
Okay.
All right, Winter. All right. So, you know, we talk off the air, and of course, those that are on YouTube and that are on Facebook get to hear what we talk about off the air. And we have Miss Kimberly Collins, that's also in law enforcement. What's your position again?
I'm a federal agent.
That's law enforcement.
Yes.
She's above the law. Federal agent. Yes. Police officers do wrongful killings.
Yes.
That is true. They're human beings. They go through idiotic things just as ER doctors, such as Dr. McGee and Dr. Retland. They go through things, they see things.
Mhm.
They too, in their mind, probably have had thoughts. Not to hurt someone, but have had thoughts into so much that they've seen. I wondered, couldn't they even go to sleep at times? Same goes for police officers.
And you know, I tell people you have good and bad in everything.
In
and under no
everything.
circumstances would I
Everything.
ever support anyone in their wrongdoing. People make bad decisions, but just as we have cops who shouldn't be cops, we have lawyers who shouldn't be lawyers,
Parents that shouldn't be
parents
parents.
who shouldn't be parents, teachers who shouldn't be teachers.
Exactly.
We can go on and on and on
Doctors should
about
be
that.
doctors, nurses that shouldn't be nurses.
Absolutely.
It's in everything, in everyone.
But we also have to take responsibility
Yes.
for our actions.
And accountability.
I
That's right.
cannot stress enough the importance of not adding fuel to a fire.
Mm.
I've been pulled over, for example. I've been pulled over a couple of times driving.
Oh, shame on you, girl.
Yes, I will admit. And when the officers pulled me over, they had a reason to.
Right.
I was speeding.
You weren't going that crazy, were you?
No.
Right.
When that officer pulled me over, and I don't typically drive with both hands on the steering wheel. However, my hands were visible because two of the most dangerous situations for police officers, traffic stops and domestic violence incidents.
Yes.
Because you have to think of it in terms of this officer is encountering a person that they don't know. They may think they're pulling a person over for a taillight that's out. This person may have a warrant from a different state for murder.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes when I make that point, I often tell people about an Indiana state trooper by the name of Scott Patrick. I remember that case so very well because I was working for Lake County at the time. It was around Christmas. It was more than 10 years ago, 8094, right there, I want to say at the Grant Street exit. Scott Patrick encountered a stranded motorist. He didn't know that this stranded motorist was a guy from Chicago who was on parole, who was driving a stolen car. To this day, Scott Patrick doesn't know that. He saw a stranded motorist.
Right.
He stopped to assist this stranded motorist.
Wow.
Unfortunately, Scott Patrick lost his life that day.
Jesus.
I remember his wife was pregnant with their
I
first
remember
child.
that day.
He never
right off the highway on Grant
Yes.
Street. I remember seeing all those patrolmen.
Yes.
Oh, gosh,
He never
his
his gun never left the holster. He never knew that this guy was who he was because he never ran the
He just
plate.
thought, let me
He
help this
stopped
guy.
to help him.
Wow.
And his life ended that day. So I say that to say, when I got pulled over, my hands are visible. I'm not reaching for my driver's license, registration, nothing. When the officer comes to my car and asks for those items, I'm going to give it to him. I don't say, what did you pull me over for? I'm a federal agent. You can't do
and throw
none
names.
of that.
I know officer so-and-so, my cousin works for the force.
Do that. Answer whatever questions that they're asking. If they ask for ID for everybody in the vehicle, give it to them.
Officer, I'm reaching for my wallet and it's in my back pocket. Is it all right?
Absolutely. Let them know what you're doing. Because again, you have to look at it from a standpoint of this person doesn't know what you're doing. They don't know
if you're reaching for a weapon.
You don't know that. So they have to be. I've had a couple people to say that, they were upset. They got pulled over, and when the officer, approached their vehicle, that they had their hand just on their weapon. And they were intimidated by this. A lot of officers do that because, again, you don't know what you're encountering.
Their life or yours.
You absolutely. And
Yeah.
a lot of times when it comes down to it,
Yeah.
you have to think of it from the standpoint of, okay, what if I were that officer?
Right.
So
right.
answer their question. Now, I do understand sometimes you have officers that are very disrespectful.
Pushovers.
They may,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know,
Oh, yeah.
sometimes you have people use profanity. It's not
Yep.
okay. But to try to argue that point on the street is not where
Don't
you
do
want to do
that.
that.
Don't do that.
That oftentimes is what happens, which leads to other issues. We have so many people who watch Law and Order and a lot of these police
I love
shows
those
that think
shows.
that they know
Oh, they don't.
the law, and it's not. That's TV, people.
Yep, it's
You know,
TV.
it's TV. So
Not
you
real.
cannot use that. And if this officer is, you know, rude, disrespectful, you feel like they did something wrong, note that officer's name, their badge number, report it.
That's
the
right.
way it needs to be reported.
That's right.
There are ways to deal with these
There are,
situations.
and you know, and I appreciate some of the people that felt that they've been racially profiled. In some cases, it has been proven, and some others there hasn't, because we feel a certain way that they're being discriminatory against us. That we have the right to feel that way doesn't mean that it's actually happening.
Right.
But you know what? Yes, give us their names. We'll meet with them. We'll sit down with them. Sometimes it's lack of training.
Yes.
That don't know. Some don't know how to deal with domestic violence. And so they'll just brush it off like no big deal.
Absolutely.
And then they leave, and 3 weeks later, somebody's dead.
And I will tell you, I was very, very, very opinionated when it came to domestic violence. For the longest, I could not understand, because oftentimes, you know, you hear of a situation and it's repeated. And I'm thinking, okay, why doesn't she just leave?
Right,
Sometimes, you know,
yeah.
okay, if a person likes the situation, you have to love it. But it wasn't until I was asked to actually teach a course on domestic violence.
Ooh, did you learn?
That I actually learned a great deal. It's not always about a person, you know, just being in a situation where they feel like, oh, I can't do any better. Oftentimes, it's not about this person just being so dependent on the other person. There's so many other factors.
Ooh, there sure is.
And you
There
you just never know.
Right.
So
right. And I think we're gonna have to do another separate show, just you and I, like songs is just you and I, talk about this, because which brings me back to pop, which
Absolutely.
is why it's so important that pop gets in the schools, gets in the cities, in every subdivision, suburb, because just in seeing, now I saw that he asked that question, and there were kids of all walks of life, all different nationalities, and more than half of those kids stood up, including my hair. When I saw that.
And it's so important to start with the young people. And I applaud the efforts of Dr. McGee and Dr. Rutland and what they're doing.
Kudos to you guys if you're watching and listening.
And so POP, there's also a SAFE program.
Yes, talk to us about SAFE.
Stands for Students Against Violence Everywhere. And can't stress that enough. With the bullying, of course, today in the schools, unfortunately, it's at an all-time high. It saddens me every time I see on the news where you have a child that has committed suicide because of that, or a child that has acted out violently because of this. And it's so important to reach the youth so that they can reach and encourage each other.
That's right.
Of course, a lot of times, you know, you have kids who they hear from us as adults and they figure, oh, well, we don't understand.
What do they know?
We can't relate.
Exactly.
But when we start working with the youth and they start working with their peers, it makes a very big difference.
A big difference. You end up finding out a lot more.
Absolutely.
And congratulations to all the students that were selected to be at the SAFE retreat this past weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
We were at Indiana University Northwest.
That's right.
Yes, it was wonderful. So some of the programs that POP has, there's the HPEP program, Freshman to MD program. It's a career shadowing program that provides seminars to students to learn the path to medical careers while they are in high school. Children gain exposure to colleges, hospitals, medical schools, community agencies. What I love so much about this program with POP, kids are able to see people, number one, that look like them.
Right.
That they can relate to. I love the fact that Dr. McGee, Dr. Rutland are very, very down to earth.
They sure are.
Sometimes you see them, you wouldn't know they were doctors, right?
Exactly.
You know, and they take time out of their schedule, and I applaud them.
They're very busy in the
ER. I know I'm busy, you know, with my everyday, life, but they take time out, with the kids. And with the program during the summer, kids get to shadow, doctors that are in certain areas that they have an interest in. They teach them CPR. They do a stop the bleed session. Absolutely. Unfortunately, with active shooter situations, we've had far too many shootings in schools around the country these days. But with the stop the bleed, kids are taught that if, God forbid, that were to happen at their school, they can render basic aid, to a classmate, for example, if they're hurt.
Necessity.
While you're waiting on emergency personnel to actually get there to actually, help them.
How can our students or our communities get involved by parents bringing us their students? How can they get involved, especially our kids in this SAFE program? How can they get involved?
The website that I mentioned earlier, www.nwipop.org. The Facebook page, POP on youth violence. They can send a message there as well and to inquire. And there are a couple of events that are coming up.
Yes,
I want to make
please,
sure we get those
because we're running out of time. We have so much to talk about that we need to bring you back.
Yes, the HPAP program is July 15th through July 19th. The POP Scholarship Luncheon is on Saturday, July 20th. It will be at this program where students will receive scholarships. There's definitely criteria for that, and that information can be provided to those that are interested. We have an excellent speaker who is going to be featured, Judge John Fitzgerald Like. He's a criminal court judge in Cook County. And we were also going to give awards to local people. Yeah. Grandmaster Alex Dunlap of Dunlap School of Karate will receive the Role Model Award. The Community Youth Leadership Award, we have 2 recipients of that award, one being Elder Tavell Grant of Greater First Church in East Chicago, and Rosemary Joyner, who's the director of the Boys and Girls Club in Gary.
Felicidades, congratulations.
And this event is going to be hosted by Lady Red from 106.3.
Yeah.
And after that, we have the Pop Party Cruise, which is a
Who wants to go on a cruise?
Event. Yes, it is taking place on Sunday, August 11th.
I'm there.
Navy Pier. And you can purchase those tickets for the Pop Party Cruise as well as the luncheon on Eventbrite.
All right.
And in September, there's a 5K walk and run at Marquette. That's on September 7th. Get healthy, people. Let's get Absolutely. Fit. And all of these efforts, of course, are fundraisers that will help POP in continuing to bring these programs to kids, continuing to give them scholarships. You have children that are interested in the field of medicine, whether they want to be nurses, whether they want to be doctors, they want to be dentists, and kids have to know that it is possible. I often tell them it doesn't matter the background that you come from. Single parent household, you may be the first person to go to college in your family. It's okay. It doesn't matter if your parents didn't go to college.
Right.
If it's something that you want to do and you set your mind to it, you can definitely do it.
Yes, you can. And si se puede, if it is to be, it is up to me. We have 1 minute left. Real quick, how can someone get involved in that program? They want to be in the medical field. How can the students get involved in that?
With POP, as far as the
program, HPAP,
Yes. The website, www.nwipop.org. That information can be found there. And again, Facebook, POP on Youth Violence. They can go to that page as well and send a message. They have any additional questions.
All right. Well, Kim, thank you so much for all the information. Again, we're going to bring you back so we can talk about all this nonsense violence.
Okay.
And of course, we'll be back tomorrow. Juan and myself will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. So don't miss our program, Nuestra Comunidad Nwi. Regresamos mañana a las 10 de la mañana. No se lo pierdan. Thank you so much, Winter. One last time, if you want to play that commercial real quick and we're done. Have an awesome day, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. And que tengan buenas tardes. Si se puede, si se puede. Yes, we can, right?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Atención, recibidores de Medicare. Cumple 65 años y tiene preguntas sobre sus coberturas de Medicare. Necesita verificar sus opciones y elegir un plan que mejor
We can talk
cubra
for
sus
hours.
necesidades
Absolutely.
médicas?
That's the one thing
Llámenme. Soy Araceli Corona, un agente de seguros sirviendo Illinois, Indiana. Háblenme al 773-968-6619 o 219-801-1276. Puedo ayudarle a contestar sus preguntas y explorar sus opciones de Medicare. Si tiene Medicare y quiere cambiar su plan médico hoy, usted puede calificar. Soy una agente licenciada y certificada y espero su llamada. Araceli Corona no está conectada con el programa federal de Medicare.
Pajama pants, and it's like, you don't come out the house looking like this.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. And that is the end of our show. Thank you again for listening, for watching. I hope that you've taken a nugget of this to tell you that it is real. It's happening. Let's be part of the solution and stop complaining about the problem. Peace to you guys on that note. Nos vemos mañana. Hasta la próxima.
Bye.
All right, Kim, thanks so much for coming
Thank
in.
you.
Appreciate
for the
you.
invite. I
All right.
definitely look forward to coming back again.
Yes, my Facebookers and YouTubers. We'll see you later. Hasta la próxima. See you next time.